So I just watched episode 4 of WandaVision and damn, things got interesting fast. Now, the ending of episode 3 already piqued my interest by kind of giving us a glimpse of the bigger picture that was going on here. And I kind of just figured with episode 4, we were going to move to the next decade of sitcoms, and it was going to just kind of continue to slowly unravel what was actually going on. But no, we just get a whole episode outside of the usual gimmick to just explain the context of the situation and explain what's technically going on. And seeing how the ending of episode 3 has kind of been the peak of the show for me so far, kind of moving on more off of that, taking a bit of a break from the sitcom stuff, is honestly a really good move in my opinion. Because I think if you give us too much of the sitcom stuff and not as much information kind of explaining things and giving us greater context, people might get kind of sick of the nostalgia of old sitcoms and maybe lose interest. So I think it was actually very smart for them to kind of give us this episode at this point in the show. I think the episode begins really well with actually showing us what it's like when the snap is undone and people kind of reforming from the ashes. We get some really good visuals with that, and I think it's a good way to introduce us to an adult Monica Rambeau. And honestly, it's just really intriguing and entertaining to see her and a bunch of other minor MCU characters work with S.W.O.R.D. to try to figure out what's going on with this small town. We get to see that there's basically some barrier surrounding the town of Westview that has been the setting of Wanda and Vision's sitcom. And it confirms that the people in the town are not creations by Wanda, but actual people from the town that have been kind of transformed into sitcom characters. And I think that's really interesting because they do seem to be kind of aware that they're trapped in this kind of pocket universe that Wanda's created in the town. But at the same time, whatever is causing this to happen to town is still kind of affecting their personalities and still making them act oh, it's a sitcom, so we gotta act all quirky and happy and stuff. But they are aware they are trapped there, which does help to add to kind of the ominous nature of the show and Wanda herself, as she's basically just taking this whole town and all of its population captive. Now, I was a little worried when they brought back Darcy from the Thor films and Asian Jim from Ant-Man and the Wasp, because it seemed okay, Marvel's just pulling any character they can out for these Disney Plus shows to show how connected it is. But I think they used them pretty well. They didn't, since those characters were mostly comedic, I thought the comedy might kind of overtake the episode with them being front and center. But I think they played it very smart with when to use those characters for humor and when to keep it serious. I think that balance was very well done. I also like the ways that it kind of ties into the previous episodes and shows how all the little things that kind of seemed off in those episodes can be explained with S.W.O.R.D. trying to infiltrate this bubble. The toy helicopter Wanda finds was a S.W.O.R.D. drone, and the beekeeper was a guy they sent in a hazmat suit. And I found kind of that interesting to kind of actually see from S.W.O.R.D.'s perspective. Speaking of S.W.O.R.D., they just kind of popped out of nowhere, but the show basically says that they've been around for a little while because Monica's mother, from Maria Rambeau from Captain Marvel, apparently helped start S.W.O.R.D., and apparently it's just been around for years. So I'm kind of wondering, how long has it been around, and how come no one else in the MCU has ever referenced it before, since it seems kind of like an official government agency? I'm assuming that it's been around since the alien invasion in New York, since that's kind of the first occurrence in the MCU timeline where aliens really become a thing for the MCU. However, I think the real mind blower of this episode is the ending, where we really get to see the rest of that scene between Wanda and Monica in the sitcom reality play out. And we get to see her toss Monica out. We see Vision walking in the background out of focus, and he looks kind of gray, and he doesn't look like his normal purplish, reddish self. And at first I thought they weren't going to actually make that reveal in this episode. I thought they were just going to leave him out of focus and kind of make the audience kind of theorize what it is. But nope, they just cut to a dead corpse of Vision walking around talking, gray, dead eyes, and a huge chunk of his forehead ripped out. Honestly, I didn't think the show was going to go that dark. I kind of thought, okay, Vision probably is still dead, but Wanda's kind of just reconstructed him in this reality out of thin air. And Vision's just completely fake, kind of like probably her children are. But nope, she's just animating his corpse walking around, and that is super dark, and I love it. I did not intend them to go that dark with this. And I gotta tell you, I'm just really interested to see what happens going forward. Now, I'm kind of know that we're gonna go back to more the sitcom kind of format in later episodes. And we're probably actually gonna go back to the 80s in the next episode. But I kind of like that we now have this underlying knowledge of what's really going on. Because when the show started, we got no context. So it was basically just, oh, Wanda and Vision, and they're in a sitcom. And we're just kind of like, okay, but what's actually going on? Now that we know what actually is going on, I think that'll kind of help additional episodes going into that sitcom format. I'm really intrigued in how they're going to handle that and what direction this show is going to go for. Because basically, it has Wanda as the villain of the show. Like, she's holding these people captive. She's basically re-puppeting Vision back to life and, like, just putting kind of this fog of, like, her powers over him to make him look normal. So I'm just not sure, like, if the character can kind of just go back to being, like, the hero that she was in previous ones now that she's kind of taken this dark of a turn. But I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with her, because she's going to be in Doctor Strange 2. So I'm wondering how this is going to lead into that. And I gotta say, if last episode piqued my interest, this episode guaranteed that my interest will stay for the rest of the series. Because I need to know what happens next. Because this just got way too interesting, way too fast. But what do you think of this episode? Let me know in the comments below, and see you next week, guys.
Hey there, folks, it's me, Danny DeVito, telling you need to like, share, and subscribe to Jack Toma's YouTube channel, because if you don't, this lazy son of a bitch doesn't have the motivation to make more episodes, because he's an insignificant piece of trash. What the fuck are you saying, Danny? You're not supposed to talk shit about me on my own channel. Yeah, I can talk whatever I like about you, little bitch. The only reason I'm here is because no one would watch your stupid YouTube channel without me, Danny DeVito. And don't you forget that.
Oh, dear Lord. Just like, share, and subscribe so I can stop hiring him.
You don't pay me shit, so you have nothing to say, so get the hell out of here.